Family is a place of love and sharing, but it can also be the root of deep conflicts. I have always tried to support my parents by buying them gifts and helping them in their daily lives. However, when my brother and his family moved in without contributing anything, while also taking advantage of what I provided for our parents, I had no choice but to change how I helped. This led to intense family tensions, making me question, am I wrong for only buying things they can't take away? This conflict stemmed from a stark difference in how my brother and I contributed to the household. I live in the loft above my parents' garage rent-free, but in return, I do everything I can to support them in meaningful ways. I buy groceries, help with household chores, maintain the yard, run errands, and assist in caring for our grandmother, who suffers from dementia. Despite working a full-time job, I also volunteer at a cat rescue and pursue theater as a hobby. Even with my busy schedule, I still make sure to contribute and ensure that my parents are well taken care of. In contrast, my brother and his family live a completely different lifestyle. They reside in my parents' basement without paying rent, even though this space was originally meant to generate income for my parents when they retire. My brother has a well-paying job, yet they spend irresponsibly on unnecessary luxuries like the latest smartphones for their kids and expensive gaming systems. Not only do they fail to contribute financially, but they also refuse to help with household tasks, claiming they are too busy or too tired. What frustrates me the most is how they treat the gifts I buy for my parents. When I brought my mom a handcrafted, colorful bag from Colombia, my 9-year-old niece took it for a school project and quickly lost it. When I gifted my dad an expensive bottle of bourbon, my brother and his wife found it and drank it, mixing it with orange juice because they thought it was too strong. This happened repeatedly, making me realize that anything I bought for my parents would either disappear or be misused. When I decided to change how I supported my parents, by giving them experiences they loved, such as taking my mom to a musical or treating my dad to a fine dining experience, my brother became upset. He started questioning why I no longer left groceries in the shared kitchen and why I wasn't buying gifts that his whole family could benefit from. When I pointed out that he wasn't contributing anything himself, he got angry and called me selfish. This escalated the tension between us, leaving my parents feeling heartbroken. Family conflicts are not just about material things. They reflect deeper differences in mindset and responsibility. I have no problem sharing, but when generosity turns into a burden and is constantly taken advantage of, am I still obligated to continue? The conflict between my brother and me isn't just about material things. It stems from a stark contrast in how we contribute to the family. I don't pay rent while living in the loft above my parents' garage, but I always try to support them in meaningful ways. I buy groceries, help with yard work, run errands, and take care of my grandmother, who suffers from dementia. Despite having a full-time job, volunteering at a cat rescue, and pursuing my passion for theater, I still make time to care for my parents. On the other hand, my brother and his family live in my parents' basement rent-free, even though that space was originally meant to provide my parents with extra income for retirement. My brother has a well-paying job at a FIFO, fly-in, fly-out camp, yet he spends recklessly. They own multiple expensive gaming systems, and his 2 oldest kids have the latest iPhones, things my parents never bought for me when I was younger. Despite having the financial means, my brother and his wife don't contribute anything to the household. What frustrates me the most is that they don't just avoid financial responsibility, they also refuse to help with household chores. My brother constantly claims that his work shifts leave him too exhausted, while his wife and kids are apparently too busy to pitch in. Meanwhile, I work full-time, have multiple commitments outside of work, yet still make sure to clean the house, cook meals, and take care of our grandmother. I can't understand how a 5-person family can live in my parents' home for free and not contribute any effort at all. This situation isn't just frustrating, it places an enormous burden on my parents. They're getting older, yet they still have to worry about finances and managing a full household. I try to ease that burden by buying groceries and covering other expenses, but when I asked my brother what he had contributed, his response was silence, followed by anger. The difference in contribution isn't just about money or labor, it's about attitude and responsibility. I firmly believe that Whether someone lives with family or on their own, every adult should take responsibility for their own life and not rely on others. My brother doesn't just rely on my parents. He feels entitled to do so. When I decided to stop leaving groceries in the shared fridge or buying gifts that his family could take advantage of, he got angry and called me selfish. But the truth is, I can't continue allowing myself to be taken advantage of. This imbalance in responsibility and contribution is the root of my conflict with my brother. I don't mind sharing, but when generosity becomes a one-sided obligation, I have no choice but to set boundaries for myself. The difference in how my brother and I contribute to the family goes beyond just finances and effort. It's also reflected in how they treat the gifts I buy for our parents. Not only do they fail to help our parents, but my brother's family also has a habit of exploiting and taking over the things I specifically buy for them. This has left me frustrated and forced me to change how I support my family. I've always loved buying gifts for my parents as a way to show appreciation and love. However, over time, I realized that anything I bought for them would quickly be taken or misused by my brother and his family. For example, during a trip to Colombia, I bought my mom a beautiful, hand-woven traditional bag, a unique gift with sentimental value. But as soon as I gave it to her, my 9-year-old niece borrowed it for a school project and accidentally lost it. I don't blame her since she's just a child, but what frustrated me was that her parents, my brother and sister-in-law, never made any effort to replace or make up for the loss. Another time, I bought my dad a rare bottle of Van Winkle bourbon because I knew he enjoyed a good drink to unwind after a long day. But before he even had a chance to try it, my brother and his wife found it, mixed it with orange juice, and drank it all, claiming it was too strong on its own. They didn't just take it, they didn't even respect the value of the gift. This didn't just happen once or twice, it became a recurring pattern. Anytime I bought something special for my parents, it seemed to disappear or get used by my brother's family without any permission or appreciation. I slowly realized that continuing this way was pointless. The gifts I gave weren't truly bringing my parents joy. They were just becoming shared household items for everyone to take advantage of. I couldn't stop them from taking physical items, but I could change how I expressed my love and support. Instead of buying gifts, I decided to take my parents on experiences they truly enjoyed, like going to the theater or dining at high-end restaurants. Things my brother's family couldn't easily hijack. But when I started doing this, my brother became annoyed and questioned why I wasn't buying things that his family could also benefit from. My brother and his wife's lack of respect for what I did for our parents made me realize I had to change my approach. I no longer wanted to be taken advantage of. If they couldn't appreciate my efforts, then it was better for me to find other ways to show my love for my parents, ways that wouldn't go to waste. After witnessing my gifts for my parents being repeatedly misused and unappreciated, I realized I needed to change how I showed my care. If physical gifts were always being taken over by my brother and his family, then I would focus on experiences that only my parents could enjoy. This decision not only allowed me to protect what was meant for them, but also made my brother increasingly uncomfortable and resentful. Instead of buying gifts, I started treating my parents to experiences they loved but rarely spent money on for themselves. I bought tickets for my mom and me to see Anastasia the musical, choosing the best seats so she could fully immerse herself in the show. It was a magical evening where she truly enjoyed herself without having to worry about anyone else. Later, I took my dad out for a luxurious steak dinner, followed by a visit to a high-end speakeasy where I bought him a $160 cocktail, an experience he had never had before. These moments brought my parents genuine happiness, and most importantly, my brother and his family couldn't take them away. Beyond these outings, I also changed how I handled food in the house. Previously, I would stock the shared fridge so my parents could use whatever they needed. However, I soon realized that my brother and his family were the ones consuming most of it instead. So I decided to keep all my groceries in my private space in the attic. But I wasn't being selfish. I still cooked meals and invited my parents to eat with me, or I would bring ingredients downstairs to cook with my dad, turning it into a bonding experience rather than just a shared resource. My brother quickly noticed the change and started asking questions. He wanted to know why I no longer kept food in the shared fridge and why my gifts had become things that couldn't be shared. When I pointed out that he didn't contribute financially, didn't pay rent, and didn't even help our parents, he became furious. He called me selfish and argued that since I was living rent-free, I had an obligation to give more. But I didn't see it that way. I had no problem supporting my parents, but I wasn't going to let my efforts be exploited by someone who refused to take responsibility. My decision to change wasn't just about protecting my own resources. It was a clear statement that I was done being taken advantage of. I still love my parents and will always be there for them, but in a way that ensures my efforts truly go toward them, not to people who don't appreciate it. When I changed how I helped my parents to prevent my brother and his family from taking advantage of me, tensions between us escalated. My brother wasn't just upset about losing access to the things I provided for our parents. He saw my change as a direct provocation. The frustration built up over time until it finally exploded into a heated argument. He started questioning why I no longer stocked the shared fridge or bought gifts that his whole family could benefit from. When I pointed out that he contributed nothing, no rent, no household chores, and no financial support, he was furious. He called me selfish and petty, claiming that I only thought about myself while he had a whole family to take care of. But I didn't see it that way. I was under no obligation to carry his burden, especially when he wasn't making any effort to improve his own situation. I reminded him that even though I didn't pay rent, I still contributed in many ways. Buying groceries, handling household chores, taking care of our grandmother, and, most importantly, spending quality time with our parents. Meanwhile, he and his family not only failed to contribute, but actively took advantage of my generosity and our parents' kindness. Instead of acknowledging this, he called me petty and accused me of trying to make him look bad. Things got even worse when his wife joined the argument. She berated me for not sharing the good food I bought for our parents, as if it were my responsibility to provide for their entire family. But I wasn't responsible for them. I chose to help my parents in a way that felt fair, ensuring my efforts actually benefited them rather than being taken over by others. Caught in the middle, my parents felt incredibly uncomfortable. They didn't want family conflict, but they also understood why I was taking this stand. I knew they were hurt by the tension between us, but I couldn't keep allowing myself to be exploited just to maintain a false sense of peace. I didn't set these boundaries to create division. I did it to protect what was mine and to ensure that my contributions truly mattered to my parents. In the end, I realized that setting boundaries isn't always easy or well received. But if I didn't, I would continue being taken advantage of, and my parents would never get the full care and attention they deserved. My conflict with my brother may never fully be resolved, but at the very least, I stood my ground.